We just have to be careful. And a threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate.
Mikor lesz béke kérdésére? Az első, mi a háború oka? A második, hogy ki háborúzik kivel. Ahhoz meg nekünk van jogunk.
Being deployed.
Say it?
They are being deployed, nuclear submarines.
Oh, yeah, well, we had to do that. We just have to be careful. And a threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
The Prime Minister said earlier that peace is needed for economic growth. Everyone has been waiting for peace for 3 years. If, for example, we look at the Russians or the Ukrainian official bodies, whether it's President Putin or President Zelensky, their statements, well, they also claim that they want peace. In Brussels, for a long time, they expected the sanctions to stop the Russians and force them to make peace. In Budapest, here in Hungary, we expected Trump's election to bring the peace-favoring American president and for peace to come. But somehow this peace never seems to arrive, and now we have reached a point where the United States continues to supply weapons to Ukraine, but the cost of this is being charged to the European Union. Additionally, there was also a 50-day ultimatum given by President Trump to President Putin. So instead of peace, there's only drift. When will there finally be peace?
To try to answer these difficult questions, we need to clarify two questions, because there is no meaningful answer to the question of when there will be peace. The first is what causes war. The second is who is at war with whom. Of course, from an international law perspective, the Russians are not right. From the point of view of international law, the Ukrainians are right. But from the perspective of the balance of power, it's clear what the Russians are doing. They have also said it. They are going to create a buffer zone, if not of the whole of Ukraine, then of that part of Ukraine which is close to Russia. They will occupy precisely as much territory as needed so that it is no longer possible to shoot into Russian territory. Already 5% of national incomes go to NATO. The European Union is taking out huge loans to buy weapons. If you purchase something on credit, it has to pay off. How does a weapon pay off if you use it? So we are in an extremely dangerous arms race spiral. This must be stopped. It can only be stopped with arms control agreements. Therefore, the West must come to an agreement with the Russians on the largest types of weaponry, how much each side operates. They need to agree on the armaments. They must also come to an agreement on the world's energy supply. Because the sanction system, which excludes the Russians from energy trade, might be good for the Americans, who enter and sell their oil and gas at much higher prices. But in the long run, this will destroy the global economy. An agreement is needed here as well. There must be an agreement regarding the sanctions against the Russians. Can foreign capital enter Russia? Can we invest there? Into which sectors? Can Russia enter the economies of other countries? It cannot. All these questions need to be resolved. This cannot be settled through bilateral military negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. If these issues are not resolved, the war will not be resolved either. The two leaders need to agree with each other on a comprehensive, large package, and then there will be peace. I do not consider this to be without chance. We are currently in a phase of threats. But well, it's like a marriage. In the end, we just stay together, right? The starting point is that the Russians will come and occupy. It's an unrealistic assumption, and we should not base our political actions on it, because only wrong political decisions can result from unrealistic premises. I believe the Russians are not in a state or position to pose a threat to Europe today. Since NATO exists, no NATO member state has ever been attacked. And I don't think they ever will be, because there is no sane person who would take the risk of going to war with all NATO member states, including the United States and Turkey, at the same time. There is no such person. Therefore, I think, although history has its dark chapters, the Baltics and Poles should believe that NATO's guarantee is an actual guarantee.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.